Well, I say, welcome back to the Sci-Fi Wise Guys podcast. I do declare my name is Anthony.
And I am the hopped up on Moans co-host.
Are you a moaning? Are you a high in the moans, Christopher?
I am but a crumb on the wit of your biscuit.
Oh, grits. I do say. Welcome.
Indubitably.
Yes, my good sir. Yes, my my devil of a doppelganger. Snow, you can hate it all you want. You can hate it all you want. You're stuck with us. Welcome, everybody, to the Sci-Fi Wise Guys podcast. The podcast will review anything and everything science fiction media, I guess. We're here this week, if you didn't know already, to talk about Lower Decks, Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 4, Episode 4. Something borrowed, something green. Which would make our whole opening bit make sense. If you haven't seen that, then we sound real dumb right now. Well, dumber than normal. Yeah, it's been another week, another episode. We've been recording our horror in space episodes for October in between all this.
Horror in space.
In space. So it's a very interesting palate cleanser to watch a couple of horror films, which I won't get into whether they're good or bad or not, but a couple of horror films and then Star Trek Lower Decks. And then a couple of horror films and then Star Trek Lower Decks. It's a nice palate cleanser. Nice palate cleanser. Yeah.
In space, can anyone hear you pod?
They can't because they goes over like it doesn't go over radio waves. It's in space, right? Like if anybody can, I guess it could. So anybody could pick it up, right? Because subspace relays.
Yeah.
Drift communication. I mean, I don't know how communication works in Star Wars. I'm guessing that communication goes through hyperspace.
What about quantum entanglement?
Quantum entanglement.
What was it? Mass Effect with the way they justified being able to communicate across the vastness of space.
Magic.
Yeah, pretty much. Edie at the beginning of the second game was like, "Oh yeah, I blah 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 quantum entanglement." And I was like, "Cool."
Well, I mean, they could, I guess, but that would only work with one point to a second point. Not you couldn't just call somebody, right?
I don't know. I just like shooting things in the face with the shotgun and then biotic charging them. That's what I remember.
No, you're a dirty bionic user.
Of course I am. Have you ever seen the Vanguard flowchart for fighting enemies?
You've shown it to me, yes. You have shown it to me, yes. Oh, goodness. I feel like I usually at this part, I ask you how you're doing. We do some banter about your week, but really we've been recording a lot because of this October stuff. So I don't feel the need, but I'm going to anyways. How have you been for the last 48 hours?
I've had a pretty decent amount of time. Started watching pick Supernatural back up after my 6 or 7 episode break from break of DS9. I totally forgot to mention that Amanda Tapping is in this season of Supernatural.
Yeah.
And when she first shows up on screen, I was like, "Hey, Carter!" And then we just got to the end of season 8. Metatron showed up, aka the guy. I don't remember the actor's name, but whoever he is, he has one of the greatest lines in any movie I've ever seen. It's called "Better Off Dead." It's with John Cusack in it, and they're at the top of this mountain, and this guy's like a crazy drug addict, and he's like, "This is 100% real snow." he like snorts the snow, and he's like, "Oh my god, my brain, it's like it's frozen." Yeah.
Okay, well, I've been great. Thank you for asking. It's been fantastic. I've been playing through Saints Row, the new one, in co-op because you can finally do that. When it came out, co-op was so broken. You'd sometimes get in the game and it would be good for a minute, and then it would crash and whatnot. And then I think we tried to play it after like the first round of updates. Same thing, like play through a mission and then it would get to an infinite loading screen and make you redo the whole mission. But they released the final paid DLC, and I thought, oh, okay, this would be the perfect time. You know what? I'll wait a few weeks extra just to see if there's any patches that come out like immediately after that DLC, and the whole studio got shut down. So I think it's fair to say that it's in the best state it's going to be. And no, so far a few hiccups, but nothing to write home about. I've been really, really enjoying that. I got a really good laugh today today with my dad. One of the cars you can get in the game is a Miata. Or it's not a Miata, but it looks like a Miata. My dad famously in our family, bought a Miata. He wanted one forever. He got one. It was, I don't want to say what period of exactly what his age was, but he was in his midlife, if that makes sense.
It's red, right?
It was green, actually.
Oh, yeah. That's right. I remember now because it was the first Miata I had ever seen in my life that wasn't red.
There you go. Well, I laughed because in Saints Row, the Miata-looking car is called a Crisis. So I had a good laugh at my dad's expense today. But I do declare, Christopher, we're not here to talk about my father or his crises. We're here to talk about Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 4, Episode 4, Something Borrowed, Something Green. If we look at the blurb on IMDb, Tendi is summoned back to Orion for a wedding. And like, what is like? I guess that's a good blurb. Like, it's like, hey, this is the premise. This doesn't give away anything that happens in the episode, but here's the premise.
I mean, that's less a blurb and just more of like the elevator pitch.
Yeah,
for this episode, like Mike Mahan he's walking into whoever's office. You know,
I think it's just Mike McMahon. I think it's Man.
Whatever his name is. Like he's sitting around the water cooler, and they're like, "Man, we need to come up with ideas for next season." He's like, "What if Tendi goes back to Orion for a wedding?" And they're like, "Deal."
Perfect.
That's the blurb.
That's the blurb. Well, this is sitting at 7.8 out of 10 on IMDb. Just only 134 ratings. It's still pretty fresh. If we can see how that compares to the rest of the season, season 4. There we go. 8.2, 7.9, 7.4, 7.8. Sorry, my preview screen is all blurry. So a little better than the last episode, which I would agree with, but it's coming in. I think coming in at 7.8 is pretty roughly the same as I Have No Bones Yet, I Must Flee. How did you feel about this episode, Chris? How did you feel about the deep dive into Orion? A very particular piece of Orion culture.
I think the rating is all wrong.
Okay.
I'm actually really upset at the rating. I feel like this episode's an 11. This is one of the funniest episodes of Star Trek Lower Decks I've seen yet. Hello, Polar Knights. Everything about this episode was fantastic from jump. One of my favorite moments of all of Star Trek is in Star Trek 09 when Kirk's getting busy with, I think Kayla is her name. And he's like, "Whoa, I love you." And he like shakes his head. And he's like, "Hey," and then like, "Aren't Orion supposed to, do whatever?" And she's like, "I can't believe you'd accuse me of doing that." And just I've always found that hysterical. Totally not Star Trek, but very funny. And Tendi for seasons of the show has alluded to it. I even called it out, I think, in the first or second episode or when we started streaming again for this season. I said, I think they're going to do something on Orion.
Oh yeah,
because Tendi keeps bringing up Orion stuff. And like she's like, "Yeah, that's something that Orions do. I don't do that." Or I think
there
was an episode in season 2 or 3 where where she and Beckett had to go pretend to be pirates. And just I thought everything was great about the episode. Like all of the because the little green men or the green woman became a trope of television because of that episode of Star Trek. Um, Back in the day, I don't even
Mhm.
remember what it's called anymore. It's not the
Well,
menagerie, but
well, it. I mean, you would talk about the first time, uh, the uh, the very first episode, like the unaired pilot, has an Orion. The Orions were the very first named alien species in Star Trek. So
uh,
it, it so it
yeah. Sorry, I'm
the
reading this
fact that
comment and
yeah,
it
yeah,
distracted me.
it can be distracting.
Yeah, no, but no, I thought the episode was great. Everything about it, just we knew Tindy was a badass. We knew it, like from the second or third episode of the show,
Yeah.
and we just really kind of figured out that she was supposed to be a prime, which, astonishingly enough, is not the general of a Goa'uld warlord.
And it's not has it doesn't mean that she's not the leader of the Autobots, which is where
Yeah.
I went. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's not divisible by herself or one. But that she is in fact supposed to she's trained to be an assassin for her family's crime syndicate. And she ended up leaving that family, the crime syndicate, because she wanted to be a scientist. We learned that in the final few minutes of the episode.
Right.
And so, we go to the underground bars on Orion. We learn about the hormones, and that is something
Moans.
that can be secreted, not necessarily has to be secreted. Not all females can do it, apparently,
I'm hopped up on that stink.
and that the males can, choose to become monadics. I think like maybe underrated comedy moment of this episode is when Talyn and Beckett meet Tindy's parents, and
Hmm.
she's like, "This is my
Hmm.
mother." She has this like title, and then she's like, "This is my dad, Bert."
Bert. Like there's I think there's an apostrophe in it.
Yeah, and he's just like, "Hello, I'm Bert."
We got a picture of him here. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hi.
yeah, and like whenever he talks, like his mom or her mom just side eyes him, like, "Did I say you could say anything out loud?" It reminded me very much of how in Dungeons and Dragons in Faerun, the Drow society, where it's matriarchal and the women are considered the leaders,
Hmm.
and the men are just essentially there to facilitate the process of making more Drow. Very Amazonian-ish. Yeah, no, great episode. I'm not even like I didn't even touch on the B story that is. Uh, uh, It's such on the B story of Boimler and Rutherford apparently solving all their disputes by just going on the holodeck and pretending to be the same person. So, yeah.
Yes. Um, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how they were able to put this A and B story together. In all seriousness, like they're not related in any way. They have they're completely separate. They go into completely different brands of comedy. I have not laughed this hard at at a lower decks episode. This is the funniest one. I don't know if it's my favorite one. I think some of the big season finales are definitely take the cake. And there's of course the Deep Space Nine episode, but this episode is the funniest episode of the season so far.
Yeah.
I think it's an easy win. Do we have a picture of the Twains? There we go.
I am but a crumb on the biscuit of your wit, sir. He said that, and I might have fallen off the couch.
It
when he
was
said
good.
it, yeah.
It was good. Do we have a picture of we have a picture of him holding the newspaper? I shared this with you earlier today,
Mm-hmm.
but the newspaper says Missouri.
Missouri.
Missouri. And I like that he answers the call. The ransom tells him to come to the bridge, and he's like, "Oh, say we'll be right there, sir."
Yeah, it's like they kind of mentioned it at the very end when
Yeah.
when Boyne was talking about what they went through, and I don't know if it was Tindy or Becky, but they're like, you know, why are you guys upset that you didn't come? He's like, oh, we didn't get to go to a pirate wedding or a pirate planet or a wedding that no one ever gets to go to. You wonder why we're upset about it?
Yeah.
Like I don't. I think it. I don't remember. Again, I don't. Maybe it was Talin. She says, you know, you guys could have discussed. Maybe you could have, you know, hashed out your discussion and talked about your feelings. And they're like, why would we do that? We could just we can just be Mozart whenever we have a disagreement. Very much some, like a lot of conflict resolution in this episode. We
A lot of
learn
conflict
a
resolution.
lot about them. What I didn't know is that on Orion there's wedding kidnappings.
It's normal.
Yeah.
They're traditional.
Yeah.
But usually they happen after the save the date, before the invitations. It's way too late for there to be another kidnapping. I did enjoy with them being Mozart at the very end, and they're just bad at it. They're just making noise. Oh,
Is that in that painting? Is that Salieri? Is that what that
is-
was?
that painting? I have no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
No clue.
Fair enough.
I'm not that smart.
Oh, you ever seen Amadeus? The movie?
Mm-mm.
Okay, fair enough. Never mind. It's probably the picture is cropped out, so we probably can't see it.
Yeah, I don't know. There might have been a longer shot of it. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
No, you did call pretty early on that we were going to go to Orion at some point this season. And they have been kind of laying the breadcrumbs, right? Like Tendi had that. I think it was season 1. She had the Black Ops episode where she goes. She's supposed to be there just to like beam them out, but she's not paying attention because she's so like distracted by the fact that she's there. And then it just ends up murdering running the whole op on her own. And then we have, like you said, the episode where we find out she's the Winter Star, and with the girls' trip with her and Mariner. And then the Deep Space Nine episode where she meets the other Orion, and she's like trying to. It's weird. She's like ashamed of her culture. So there's still some character arc left to where she can become less ashamed of her culture. She can maybe embrace it a bit more, right? I mean, like the look she's giving Tila here, she gives that constantly. She's like, no, don't worry about this. Just, it's okay.
What's funny is like, this is the look I give people when I mention that I have a podcast.
This is the look I give you when you mention people we have a podcast.
I'm like, people like, so like, do you have any hobbies? I'm like, yeah, I have a podcast. And they go,
Yeah.
and then I go, no, it's about science fiction movies. It's not how much about how much I hate women. No, it's not like that at all. No.
Wow. Why would you immediately go there? Oh, it's not political at all, which is important.
Yeah,
Except for when it is. I will say there are more people that know I have a podcast than people. How do I put this? I'll be like, oh yeah, I do this sometimes. Sometimes I have a podcast where I'll do this or that, and they'll be like, oh really? What's the name of your podcast? I'm like, no.
You're not
I
going to
want to check
subscribe.
it. I'm like,
no, you
no,
won't.
I'm not. I'm here to give you. I'm not here to try to advertise. We're just having a conversation.
Well, they're not going to listen anyways.
Also, you're not going to listen to this anyways. I think there's one time in the past year I sent somebody a link to an episode because we were having a discussion about whatever it was that we had reviewed. Regardless, coming back around, I think there's still some progress to be made as far as Tindy's character goes. She needs less shame, right? Less shame, I think. She needs to embrace her heritage, which she's getting a little better at.
Well, is it shame or is it just like?
Look, I mean, it looks like embarrassment to me. Like she's worried about what people are going to think about her if they learn this about her people. Right? Like,
Sure.
she's always fighting against stereotypes and this type of thing. And she's real nervous about anything that might reinforce that stereotype, makes her uncomfortable. Yeah, I think it's shame. It's embarrassment, shame. What else would you call it?
Oh, I'm not sure if it. I'm just saying I don't know if it's the right word. Like, because it's. I don't think she's ashamed of being an Orion. I think she's like. I think you might be right. She's more ashamed of what people will think of her because she's an Orion. But I mean, there might be some lines of dialogue where people are like, "Oh, you're an Orion," and then she gets like defensive. I feel like I'm getting that. I have that. It's coming to the forefront of my brain where it's like she gets mad at someone. She's like, "Not all Orions are like that." Just the ones that are mistresses of the midnight constellations.
uh, okay. How do you feel about Tulin?
Oh, she's great. I think I've mentioned it before on, if not on the pod, but our discussions internally is that I think Vulcans are the coolest race in
Really?
all of Star Trek.
I don't think I've ever heard you say that actually.
I think they're awesome. Like it in a in a in a science fiction world
Hmm.
where for the most part, there's like even still, they're the only ones who use logic. Like there's episodes with Data where he's confused at the way that Vulcans react because even though he's a machine, he doesn't logic does not dictate his decision making. And I think that like all throughout TOS and some of the movies, whenever Bones calls him cold blooded, Spock that is, he's like, it's not that I don't have compassion. It's just that this is the logical choice.
Yeah.
And the fact
Yeah.
that they're crazy pacifists, but at the same time they can be so violent and they're so strong. Like I don't think they ever really talk about it, but I'm pretty sure Vulcans are as strong, if not as stronger than Klingons. Like
Yeah, they're pretty strong. I'm not sure. I mean, Klingons are as strong as the plot needs them to be.
sure, yeah, it's Worf terrible at his job,
Very bad.
but like
He got his last boss killed.
no, but like it's just I think they're awesome. They're an awesome race, and like I said, the fact that they're like they don't have any warships.
Hmm.
Like they're just pacifists. They're like, no, we're not gonna fight you. Like the I think unification. That's probably one
Yeah.
of my favorite 2 or 3 episode arc in Next Gen, where like they're just like, cool, I guess the Vulcans are going to take over our planet. That's nice. Or the Romulans just going to take
Take
over
that over. Yeah.
Vulcan. I guess that's the thing we got to do now. Spock's a great character, is probably one of the best characters in all of Star Trek, but I just think the Vulcans are awesome. I love T'Lyn. I think she's great. So,
Do you think so?
yeah.
I feel like the longer we let's see. Hold on one second. There we go. Okay. I feel like okay. I feel like the longer Star Trek goes, the more emotion the Vulcans show. Like I feel like early on they're robots. They're pure robots. Anytime they show emotion, it's big and bombastic or what have you. And I think the more modern Vulcan, the more modern interpretations of them, uh, do like they show emotion, but it's so much more subtle
Well, I
than
think
anything
even
else. And so, well, that's what I
go
mean.
ahead.
So with T'Lyn, like they made all of those jokes last season about how she's having an outburst on the Vulcan science ship. And to
Yeah.
me and you, it's just like, no, man, she's just, I can't tell. Like, what are you talking about? But then, and even more recently, in some of the Strange New World stuff, the Vulcans have evolved in the media of the show to show that they have emotions, and I like in just much more subtle ways. Um, yeah, and as Phenom puts it, yeah, it's about their ability to control their emotion and not make decisions based on their emotions, right?
Right.
And and maybe it's just because the acting's getting better or the directing's gotten better is why it comes through subtly. And you mentioned Data being confused about him. I think they do make decisions based on emotions. Sometimes I think they logic their way. They try to use logic to justify their emotions sometimes. I think and this is Vulcan to Vulcan, situation to situation,
Yeah.
and we're way off the deep end. But I think a lot of times they have a conclusion and they don't realize it's an emotional conclusion. And then they back it up with, like, oh, yeah, I see how this could work without second guessing themselves.
Well, just like uh, anyone that has a superiority complex, right?
Yeah.
They they either backtrack or they say, "Oh yeah, no, I would have done it that way anyways because it was a logical thing to do." Like Spock doesn't sacrifice himself to save everyone on the Enterprise because it's the logical thing to do. He does it because he knows that if it's going to kill everyone. So he
Right.
makes the emotional and logical decision, right, to save the crew because that's what heroes do. Like with Sarek, he when he has Bendai syndrome or whatever excuse they needed to
Kill him.
yeah, because he's old. No, I mean Phenom is right. They have emotions. It just doesn't dictate their society. They've just repressed them so much that any hint of it or what we would consider, a small subtle thing for them is considered a major, like when, you know, Spock punches that dude
Yeah.
in Star Trek '09, and they're like, "Dude, you're too emotional to be part of the Vulcan Science Academy." And then he's like trembling with rage as he's like essentially telling them to piss off, like the Science Council. That's like you can see it, like he's getting ready to freak out, and it's like cool. Yeah, I mean, I would have probably conducted myself a little different, but I'm just a human who
No, fair
isn't
enough.
isn't pretending that I don't have emotions. Oh, the bar scene is great. The
Yeah, the
picture
bar scene is
that we
fantastic,
just
yeah.
went past. She's like, I gotta go in here. Let me in.
We're gonna have to go in here, guys. Let me in now.
Who do you think
I-
you are?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Don't flay me. Oh, don't worry, guys. I would never flay anyone. This- oh, we're skipping over the cold open, right? Like with the other Orion ship, and oh, did you hear? He got metal or she got metal things attached to her head. That's so cool. I want to put metal things attached to my head. But
I'm
you
gonna get a
gotta
tattoo
earn
of it.
You gotta earn it. You can't just like these pictures of these like the ensigns, the lower decks of the Orions.
So I
And he's holding
counted.
up that big chain. I'm gonna get a tattoo of this chain that goes from my neck down to my ankle.
I counted. Mariner got stabbed 5 times in this episode. That's what I counted.
5? I only counted 4.
Did you include the end where she says she got stabbed?
Yeah, I did. I did. She got stabbed in the bar. Then she got stabbed in the hump dungeon. Then she got stabbed on the derelict ship. Oh,
That's right. Yeah, I guess so.
because when she goes, she's like, "I'm not gonna be a part of this."
Yeah,
And
it
she
just
goes-
bounces.
She goes and hides behind the
Yeah,
console.
it's a hump dungeon.
Yeah, the hump dungeon. They have one of those in New Seattle. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
It bounces off. It
Yeah.
bounces off. It's an open, like you mentioned, panels. Man, the panels on these ships just keep coming off. It bounces right into her shoulder again. My favorite bit is right after this. Excuse me, where she takes the bloody knife out of her and puts it in the jar full of bloody knives. Like they have a jar where they collect them.
Yeah. She's like, oh, sorry about that.
New
Like how
Seattle.
the guy in the background, right over the jar. Like, oh.
Oh. Oh no. Yeah. Phenom, who I didn't think was actually paying that close attention, did hear the words "hump dungeon" as we were going through. That's where all the males are getting off on the moans.
Yeah.
They're high on that stink.
They're addicted.
Well, she sprays whatever like to get them unaddicted. They're like, "Aw, another sex dungeon." I gotta
Again?
go again.
Dang it. I wonder what it's like to be addicted to the moans.
It sounds horrific, honestly.
I don't know. Those guys seem to, those Orion seem to be having a good time. Well,
Fair
one
enough.
homeboy was he was a willing addict
Yeah.
because
Well, I mean,
his
yeah.
life had fallen apart. So
Yeah.
it's like sometimes I follow her home. Like, can you be a stalker in Orion society? Like,
Yeah. If somebody says leave me alone, you don't. I
but
mean,
no, because they just flay you,
mm,
right? It's a female-dominated society,
I
so
don't think all of them can flay. I think Tindy, being who
Mm,
she is, can flay. I think there's a difference, right?
well, I
Like
just
the lady, the madam, if you will, that runs the hump dungeon. She can't just flay at will, right?
maybe she can.
Maybe I don't know. Does she?
I got
There's two
Ursula
things.
vibes from this lady. As soon
Good.
as she
I'm glad
popped
you
on the
said-
screen, I was like, "Oh shit!"
Because she looks like Ursula.
Uh,
She's straight. It's just Ursula as an Orion.
Who played that? Who played her? Let's see. Full cast.
Oh no. Like this is the funniest episode this season. Like we're circling jokes and we're talking about the piece of Orion culture we've looked into. Oh, here's a picture of Ursula. Can we put that? Can we switch back to the other picture? Can we switch back and forth? Yeah. Give me one more go. I think it's the eyeshadow that does it. I think it's the eyeshadow.
What's the white hair that's
And the white, yeah, the whiter hair, yeah, yeah. Sorry, we're circling the plot, but really we're just talking about jokes. We're just sharing jokes, and we're laughing about it, which is one way to discuss a comedy. Oh, but I I really did think this episode was good for a comedy. From a comedy perspective, this episode is the best this season. It's fantastic. I think the Voyager episode might outdo it if you're like a big Voyager fan, and of course the Moopsy episode for just the
Moopsy.
ridiculousness that is Moopsy. But those were the only parts that are funny, right? This has just got joke after joke after joke. But at the same time, this is a 90s Star Trek episode. We are getting a closer look at the Orions. We are looking at their culture. Yeah, it's from a particular lens, but we're learning a lot throughout, right? Like the moans, yeah, that exists, but that's more seedy. It's not just all everywhere, right? We learn a little bit. The syndicate is basically mafia families. They're marrying and intermarrying, like for power and whatnot. So we're learning a lot about their culture. And you're right, it is matriarchal, which is interesting. Also, the name Bert, which is my great grandfather's name is Bert, or was. I don't know how. Yeah. So that's interesting. Didn't know that was an alien name.
in Greta.
Greta. Yeah,
That's the name
Ingrita.
of the madam.
Yes.
So not sure who the voice actor is still.
Yeah, I'm sure they have. What would you call it? A stable of actors that they go through. So it's probably someone we've heard before. So the episode just hits everything. It hits a lot of the classic Trek. You know, like TNG used Worf in order to go into Klingon culture and learn about them, and DS9 used Quark and family to go into the Ferengi culture. Enterprise does a lot with the Andorians, right? Exploring these people that have existed, but we've never really gone into it. Now we're getting to look at the Orions, and I think it's a great choice. I'm really glad they went with this and not repeating a culture we've already deep dived or creating a new one like Deep Space Nine did with like the Bajorans and whatnot. I think it really really works. I think it's really cool that they're doing it that way. Also, I never knew that I wanted to dress up as Mark Twain for Halloween.
Was because we've already gotten the Breen, right?
Green?
In this show, weren't there Breen mercenaries when they go to that? They go back to the planet where everyone's like when the AI ship was taking over with those Breen mercenaries.
I don't. Were they? Did they have like the helmets?
Yeah,
And talked funny? Yeah,
yeah.
you're right. I think there were Breen.
So I think Gorn are the only race that they haven't really explored in Lower Decks, as far as I'm aware.
Well, I think Gorn are a little off limits.
Why?
Well, I mean, because of you not watching Strange New Worlds, I don't know how much you want me to spoil that
Oh,
show, but they're definitely going into Gorn culture from a
oh,
adversarial perspective.
oh.
Yeah.
Well, they're in the first
Yeah.
season, so
Yeah. No, but they're very. I think Gorn are the bad guys of Strange New Worlds, and will continue to be for a while. They're definitely getting into more and more conflict, and
Okay.
we're learning about them through that. No idea how that conflict's going to end. I don't know, through the power of music, maybe. I'm a big fan of when they do the power of music.
I see.
Yes. No, I'm pretty sure it lasts until Kirk hits one with a rock. One of my favorite bits is I don't even know what it was for, but when Shatner, it's like not even that long ago. So like Shatner sits down with somebody who's dressed in the Gorn outfit, and they're rewatching the fight. They're talking about it, like he's talking about it as himself, as Shatner, but he's treating the Gorn actor as if he's actually like Gorn. I guess it's really interesting. No, 10 out of 10 episode, 11 out of 10 episode. Did you have an idiot of the episode?
Um, no.
I have one, but it's a little bit of a stretch.
Okay.
It's the guy who is wasting his life away, addicted to the stink. He wants to be there.
That's a good point.
I know he's sad, you know. Tindy's sister, who I guess is also named Tindy, because I kind of forget that Tindy's her last name.
Yeah.
Erica or whatever her name is, broke up with him. But man, you gotta pick yourself back up. You know, you gotta put yourself together. You gotta push forward in life. And I know it's hard. And it might be harsh for me to call you an idiot, especially because of that good stink. But get off the moans. Do something with your life.
Drugs are bad, okay?
Okay. Drugs are bad if you waste all your time doing them.
That is not the PSA for this episode.
No, it is not. Oh man. I don't even know, like, because our schedule's all odd. I think that by the time, if you're listening to this in podcast land, we'll be officially starting Horror in Space.
Horror in space.
In space. This next Monday, starting with Event Horizon, which is well outside our normal purview. It is not straight to stream. It is not straight to DVD. It is probably, I would describe it as cult. It's a cult classic, right? At this point. It's also horror, which is something that I kind of stay away from. So it is way outside our normal repertoire, if you will. But a great start to Horror in Space. Man, what a movie. Man, what a movie. If you have, so we'll be doing that for the month of October before we dive back into, and of course, continuing the Lower Decks episodes until the end of the season, really. So if you have any suggestions for things we should watch outside of Horror Month, Horror in Space Month, do you send them our way? You can email us, scifiwiseguys@gmail.com. We're also on all the social medias, I think. There might be a new one out there by the time this comes along.
Pinterest? We got Pinterest?
We're not on Pinterest.
Damn.
Shoot. We're on the Twitter or the X. We're on the Instagram. I think we're not on Facebook is the big one we're not on. We're just not on Facebook. We're on Blue Sky now. I got like 3 posts on there at the time of this recording. So you can hit us up there if you like to. DM us. They're open. Or you can just add us or whatever you got to do on whatever platform you're on. We really appreciate the suggestions. If you don't have a suggestion, go to iTunes, or Spotify or Podchaser, give us that 5-star review to let us know you like what we're doing. We really appreciate it, and it helps out a whole lot.
And if you don't like us, give us a 5-star review and tell us why you didn't like us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you leave a 1-star review, I'm not going to read it.
Yeah.
If you want us to get your feedback,
The only 1-stars we review are the
Yeah.
1-star reviews that we read are the ones that people leave on movies.
oh yeah,
Stay healthy, stay hydrated, and give me that good stank.
bye guys.
Oh, my wife doesn't even say that.
Oh, I think I'm supposed to go off air. Hold on.